All right, so today we are working on the non-calculator section. This is section 3 of this practice SAT test. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so we have if x minus 1 over 3 equals to k and k equals to 3, what is the value of x? All right, so nobody likes fractions, right? So the first thing we need to do is get rid of this fraction on the bottom. And we also need to substitute k for 3. So let's rewrite this. So x minus 1 over 3 equals, and we know k is 3, so it equals 3. Now, to get rid of this nasty fraction here, we're going to multiply both sides by 3 because that will eliminate the 3 on the bottom. So we have x minus 1 equals 9. Now it's just a simple equation. We're going to add 1 to both sides. So x equals 10. Now, if you have extra time, you can go back and you can plug this in and verify that it works. So 10 minus 1 would be 9, divided by 3 is 3, right? But again, only do that if you do have extra time. Now this problem number 2, it says for I equals the square root of -1, what is the sum of 7 plus 3i plus -8 plus 9i? Now, as you can see, all of these answers have I in it. So what happens sometimes is they give you too much information. Like, we don't care what I is equivalent to, right? Because we're just adding here. If we were multiplying, it would be different, but we're just adding. So all we're going to do is combine like terms. So I have a 7 and a -8. So that's -1. 3i and 9i is 12i. And that's the answer. Okay. So again, sometimes they do give you too much information, so don't worry too much about that. Try to figure out and solve if there's too much information that they give you. And you don't always have to use every piece. Okay, number 3 is going to be a word problem. So let's go ahead and read through it. On Saturday afternoon, Armand sent M text messages each hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. Which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon? The first thing I always like to do is this helps some people, is underline the question. That way you can start to separate what is information versus the actual question here. Okay, so I have some variables. I have M and P, and the total number means I'm going to add, right? So somehow I'm going to add M and P. Okay, now for M, we have 5 hours. So I'm going to attach the 5 here to the M, 4 hours for the P, and that gives you the answer, letter C. Number 4 is another word problem. So let's go ahead and read this. Kathy is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week, she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of the day can be estimated with the equation P equals 108 minus 23D, where P is the number of phones left and D is the number of days she worked that week. What is the meaning of the value 108 in this equation? So again, with story problems or word problems, if you get overwhelmed with them, underline the question. That's going to help us out here, because now we can focus on the 108. So let's take a look at this equation here. P, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. P equals 108 minus 23D. Well, geez, this equation kind of looks like an equation of a line. So let's go ahead and rearrange these. I'm just going to switch the spots here, and I'm going to change it to P equals negative 23D plus 108. So by moving it around, I can see that this is attached to a variable, but this 108 is a constant. So if I look through the questions here, I can already eliminate 2. I have 2 that say per. And we know that these are not correct because this is a constant, so I can automatically cross out C and D. I already know those 2 are wrong. Now, let's go ahead and take a look. Kathy will complete the repairs within 108 days. Well, we know it's probably not that because the days, letter D, is attached to the 23 here. But okay, I'm going to put a little mark there because I reviewed it. Let's go to the next one. Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix. Well, that sounds like the correct answer. And if we take a look, and let's say we put this on a graph, right? And I'm only going to do one quadrant. So if I start here, 108, and I go down this way, right? As it's a negative sloping line, that makes sense. The 108 days does not make sense. The 108 phones to start makes sense if you think about it like a line. So the correct answer here is B. Now, I know that these answers may be a little bit long for some people. Maybe some of you are watching this and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever, I know that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to explain it in multiple ways, because when you have these standardized tests, a lot of times it's about thinking about things in different ways. So let's do 2 more on this page. Number 5, which of the following is equivalent to the expression above? Okay, so all we're doing here with this problem is we are subtracting polynomials. And the first thing you always want to do if you have a subtraction here is you want to change it into an addition problem. So I'm going to change this to a plus, 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 and the plus to a minus. All right, and now what I can do is I can see what combines together. So I have an x squared y and an x squared y. So 1, 2, 2x squared y. Okay, then here we have a minus 3y squared and a plus 3y squared. Well, that's going to cancel each other out. And then we have a 5xy squared and minus 3xy squared. So that would be 2xy squared. So the correct answer here is C. All right, number 6, we have another formula here, right? So we already remember from that other one that, remember, this is the variable, this is the constant, and this is some sort of equation. And we already know from the other answer, this is probably a starting point. So let's go ahead and read the problem. A pediatrician uses the model above to estimate the height, h, of a boy in inches in terms of the boy's age, a, in years, between the ages of 2 and 5. Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and underline the question. And we're looking for an increase. Well, an increase is going to be attached to a variable. So this one's pretty simple after the other one, and we know that the increase in inches per year, because remember the height is times a in years, so that means 3 inches per year. The answer is 3. All right, now this is a kind of a long one, but let's go ahead and read the question. This big old formula above gives the monthly payment M needed to pay off a loan of P dollars at R% annual interest over N months. Whew. Which of the following gives P in terms of M, R, and N? So let's underline the question. Now, for a lot of people, this would be I'm just going to give up. I'm not even going to worry about this. This is crazy. I don't know what's going on here. Guys, this one is really easy. Okay, so sometimes looks can be deceiving. This is a good example of if you aren't sure where to start, like what does this even mean? Following gives P in terms of M, N, and R. Well, take a look at the answers. They're all the same. They all have P on one side of the equation. So what we need to do is we need to get P over there. Okay, that's it. So if we have P over here and we need to get it to this side, what we need to do is we need to divide everything by P, right? Because P right now is technically on top here, so we need to eliminate it from this side. Now, we only have so much time here, okay? And what we need to do is, because we need to inverse M and P, what you can do is you can actually look at the answers here. I want you to take a look at the answers. So this is one that you can get really convoluted in trying to solve it exactly, but let's just look at it. We already know that because P is technically on the top over here, we're going to have to invert it. So let's look at the answers. We know that this cannot be true, right? Because we cannot have the same things on the top and the bottom as in the sample. It's not going to be simplified to one of these. And so the answer is going to be B here, where the top, you do the inverse and invert it, and that is what's going to give you your answer. All right, this question, if A over B equals 2, what is the value of 4B over A? Now, what I like to do for some of these is like to think of numbers. So like, let's say, like, what could A and B be, right? So like if A was 6 and B is 3, that would mean that we would get 2, right? So let's go ahead and plug this in here. If I have 4 times 3 divided by 6, that's 12 divided by 6, it would give me 2. So sometimes with these types of problems, I just go ahead and try to insert different things into it. You don't have to make it too complicated. Let's even try if A was 10 and B was 5. Okay, 4 times 5 divided by 10 equals 20 divided by 10 equals 2. So I tried 2 different scenarios. They both worked. That's what you're going to do in some of these cases. And that's totally fine. What is the solution xy to the system of equations above? If you're not really good at solving systems of equations, again, you could start, plugging in numbers, but we only have so much time here. So I'm going to show you how to solve this the technical way. So let's solve for x on this one. So we have 2y minus x equals negative 19. Negative x equals, we're going to subtract 2y from both sides. Negative 2y minus 19 divided by negative 1. X equals 2y plus 19. Okay. Then what you do is you plug in x for, you plug this in as x. So 3 times 2y plus 19 plus 4y equals negative 23. Distribute this out. 6y plus, you don't have a calculator, so if you got to do it out, it's okay. 57 plus 4y equals negative 23. 10y equals, subtract 57 from both sides, equals 80. So y equals 8. Now, you could go back, plug y in, but again, you only have so much time for this test. So I always like to look. There's only one with, see, this is where I catch myself. Look, I made a mistake. This is negative. So even I make a mistake if I'm trying to go through really quickly. That was a really good catch. So we have y equals -8. That is the only one that's possible. So we don't need to continue further. You can continue further if you want to, but I already can tell you that that is the correct answer. Okay, g of x equals ax squared plus 24. For the function, g defined above, a is a constant, and g of 4 is 8. What is the value of g of -4? Okay, so for functions, this is x, right? So you would plug x in here. And they're saying when you do that, we get 8 as an answer. Now take a look. This is asking if it's g or x equals to -4. Well, whether it's negative or positive 4, you're going to get the same answer because it's going to be squared, right? Because 4 squared is 16 and -4 squared is also 16. So if 4 produced the number 8, -4 would also produce 8. Okay. Remember, these calculator ones, they do kind of set these up, like even this one where I didn't have to go all the way through and solve for both. They do that on purpose because, again, this is not a calculator section of the test. Then they tend to keep it a little bit simpler. All right. So we have, in the equation above, B and C represent the price per pound in dollars of beef and chicken, respectively, X weeks after July 1st during last summer. What is the price per pound of beef when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken? All right, let's go ahead, underline the question. So we already know that B represents beef and C represents chicken. So they're asking when it was equal. So all we're going to do is we're just going to set the two equations equal to each other. So 2.35 plus 0.25x equals 1.75 plus 0.4x. So we're going to move the 175 to this side. And I know that's going to be 60 cents. And then we're going to subtract the 0.25x from both sides. So it'd be 0.15x. So when I solve this, divide by 0.15, I know that x is going to give me 4. All right. So I know that at 4 weeks, so this is the thing. 4 is not an answer here. We already know that's not an answer. We need to go back to the question. What was the price per pound of beef? It's not asking at X, which is how many weeks. It is asking the price per pound of beef. Okay. So what we need to do is always go back to that question to make sure we're answering the actual question. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug 4 in for here. So let me just cross that out. B equals 2.35 plus 0.25 times 4. Whoops. Oopsies, there goes my table. So B equals 2.35 plus 1. So that would be $3.35. Ooh, having fun yet? We have 20 questions in this section, so we're almost done. Okay, a line in the XY plane passes through the origin and has a slope of 1/7. Which of the following points lies on the line? Now, you can choose to, do this however you want. I like to make a little graph. It just makes me happy. So let's go ahead and make a little graph here. So let's see. It passes through the origin. So it's going to go here. And then we're going to rise 1 and run 7, right? So let's see, we have x. So the thing is, like, a lot of people would just say, oh, it's 1, 7, right? Because 1, 7, 1, 7. So take the time, draw a little graph. Took me 10 seconds to do, and I can see that the x value, because remember the coordinates is x, y, right? So the x value is going to be 7 and the y value is going to be 1. So if I look here, it's like, uh-oh, hold on. 7, 1 is not an answer here. Again, this is a really easy one where people would go ahead and just look real fast and pick B. But I know that, you know, the answer is not here. So that means I have to go to the next point. I'm going to rise 1 more. And I know this is not accurate. It's okay. But I'm going to go up 1 more and over. And I see that this one is 14 and 2. And would you look at that? It's right there. All right. Wow, this one looks really weird, right? So it says if x is greater than 3, which of the following is equivalent? So there are a few ways to do this. I'm going to be honest, how I would personally do this. I already know it's probably going to be one of these two, just because it has the, I cannot think right now. I'm not going to be using good math terms, guys. I'm sorry. But because it has the line here, I know that it's got to be one of these two. I just know it. So what I would do, and, you know, it is what it is, but I would actually plug a number in here. So let's just go ahead and I'm going to plug in if x is 4, right? So we have 1 over 6 and 1 over 7. So 1 divided by this would be the same as 6 plus 7, which is 13. So 13, this I already know. See, if you take a look, this number, this one here is going to produce a fraction, and I need it to be a whole number. So this one's already out. Because if I got a fraction here, that could be the answer, but because it's a whole number, it's got to be one of these, and I'm thinking it's going to be this one, and I don't know, I didn't look ahead. So let's go ahead and just solve this for 4. So I have 16 and 20 and 6 divided by 13. So let's see, 16 and 6 is 22, and 20 is 42. 42 divided by 13. I don't know what that is in my head, but let's just see if it's 4. 13 times 4. Look at that. It's 42. That's the answer. So worst case, you know, again, if this is something where you're like, I don't even know where to solve this, it's multiple choice. Start plugging in numbers. Try to keep it as simple as possible. You know, the main way to get this one is you kind of had to know that 1 divided by these fractions would just make them whole numbers. Some of these things, it's just, there's not really a way to teach it, if that makes sense. It's kind of like you just have to kind of know enough math and have enough math knowledge to be able to solve it. Is if 3x minus y equals 12, what is the value of 8 to the x over 2 to the y? All right, so what we need to do here is the first thing is we need to simplify this a bit. So we know that we can make this into 2 to some power to match this 2 on the bottom. So this is the same as saying 2 to the 3x over 2 to the y. Okay. Now we want to solve, basically it's 2 to some power. That's what we're trying to figure out here. So let's get rid of the 2's and let's just go down here and do 3x over y. Okay. I'm going to solve this problem for y up here. So we're going to do, we're going to move 3x over. So negative y equals negative 3x plus 12. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and divide by negative 1. So y equals 3x minus 12. Now down here, we're going to substitute y for this. So 3x over 3x minus 12. And from here, we can see that we can eliminate the 3x's, left with 12 here. I know it's negative, but that's fine. And the answer is going to be 2 to the 12th power. All right, next one is a factoring problem. And we have in parentheses, if ax plus 2 times bx plus 7 equals 15x squared plus cx plus 14 for all values of x, and a plus b equals 8, what are the possible values for c? Well, if we know a plus b equals 8, we know that it could be like 5 and 3, for example, right? So we can also think of, 7 plus 1, 4 plus 4, etc., etc. But the thing about it is we know it has to be 5 plus 3 because if a and b equal 8, then when you multiply them together, it's going to give you 15. So most likely it's going to be the 5 plus 3. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to plug in 5 and 3 as a and b. So if I have 5x plus 2, bx plus 7, we know that these two, this should be at 3bx plus 7. We know that this number comes from here, the 5 times 3. The cx is going to come from here, 5x times 7 and 2 times 3x. So 5x times 7 is 35x, and 2 and 3 is 6x, gives you 41. So 41, there's only one here that has that as an option. The correct answer is letter D. So we have t is greater than 0, which means it can't be negative, and the reason why they say that is because it's squared. So if some number squared minus 4 is 0, what is the value of t? Well, this one's pretty easy. Let's solve for t. So let's add 4 to each side. So t squared equals 4. And then to solve for t, we'll take the square root of each side. So t equals 2. Now remember, it's plus or minus 2, but the answer is just 2 because it has to be greater than 0. All right, let me zoom out a little bit. This is a little bit of a big problem. Here we have a diagram with some similar triangles here. So let's go ahead and read. Make sure I got it all. A summer camp counselor wants to find length x in feet across a lake as represented by the sketch above. The lengths represented by AB, EB, BD, and CD on the sketch were determined to be 1,800 feet. Okay, hold on. I'm already getting information. So this is 1,800 feet. Okay, I'm going to chalk that off. And then EB is 1,400 feet. And then BD is 700 feet. And CD is 800 feet. Okay, segments AC, and DE intersect at B, and angle AEB and CDB have the same measure. What is the value of x? All right, so this isn't too bad. What we're looking at here is similar angles. So I'm just going to call this angle D and like little letters E. This angle is going to match A, And because of this intersection here, these are going to be the same. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 just to show they're the same. So if I'm going to redraw these so that they match, I can do that. And remember this one, I had to look at this. Remember this one and this one are the same angle. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this around so that it matches. So this is D, this is B, and this is C. So D to B is 700. C to D is 800. And all we're going to do here is you can do all the math out, and I'll just show you how to do the math. But we can see that these are similar triangles. So 1400, 700, 1800, this is probably going to be 900, and 800 should be 1600. But in case you want to do it completely out, you could say 1400 is to 700 as X is to 800. And you could do this math out, but again, we don't have a calculator. So you can clearly see here, this is times 2. So what number times 2 would give you 800? 1600. And the correct answer is 1600. All right, guys, almost done. 3 more. According to the system of equations above, what is the value of X? All right. So we can do this many different ways. The easiest way would be to do elimination, just because these are kind of similar. So let's go ahead and multiply this by -1. So I'm going to rewrite it here. X plus Y equals -9. I'm going to send this out. So it's -X minus 2Y equals positive 25. That gets eliminated. -Y equals 25 minus 9 would be 16. So Y equals -16. Now I'm trying to solve for the value of X here. So let's plug it back into this one. So X minus 16 equals -9. Add 16 to both sides. X equals 7. And that's the correct answer. All right, so we have in a right triangle, one angle measures X, where sine of X is 4/5. What is cosine 90 minus X? So we have a right triangle, and one angle measures X, where sine of X is 4/5. So if you remember SOHCAHTOA, I always like to write it out. It doesn't really matter which angle it is. Let's just say this one is X. The sine is opposite is 4. Hypotenuse is 5. Okay, so what is the cosine 90 minus X degrees? Again, doesn't matter which one, because we know we have the ka here. And we're going to also go ahead and assume something. So this is one thing with the SAT is because they didn't give us each of them, let's assume that this is an isosceles right triangle. So cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. So the cosine would be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 4/5 or 0.8. Now, I'm going to be honest, for this one, I actually did have to look at the answer. And when I saw that this was the answer, I was like, okay, we're going to assume that this is an isosceles right triangle where both angles are the same. So I did cheat a little bit for that one, just because I was like, I don't even know what they're asking for. So yeah, sometimes, you know, these are super, super tricky, and you know, it's very difficult to get a perfect score on these just because sometimes you just don't know what to assume and what not to assume. Okay, so we have, this is the last one, if A equals 5 square root of 2, and 2a equals the square root of 2x, what is the value of x? Okay. So what we're going to do here is we are going to turn this into 2a. Okay. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by 2. So I have 2a equals 10 square root of 2. So what I can do now is I can set this new equation where I converted it into setting it equal to the square root of 2x. So 10 square root of 2 equals the square root of 2x. Now, this x is under the square root, so what do we have to do? We have to square both sides. So 10 squared is 100. Square root of 2 squared is 2 equals 2 square root of 2 squared is 2 and x. I have a 2 on both sides. X equals 100. And that's it. That is the non-calculator version of this practice test. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to do the calculator version separate because it is significantly longer. It's 28 questions, and we already, went pretty far into this. But I want to share that for now, and we will continue in the next video.